ngasi topic se akoina last ki lecture da introduce tograba haiba tare ko koi unit 1 da khara panruba topic tu ki expansion da expand tor haiba tare ne ko koi khara chapthoga ne na dorim ni ko ngasi ki se BEGC 106 popular literature ki part mo do ni block number 1 popular literature and introduction ko popular literature have se karino moise classical literature kari dikhene ko haiba di moi gi from haiba tare ko origin se karam kandagi ni na punya accept the way ko adu me to ni na dori ne ba aduga ngasi gi unit na unit 2 the notion of the canonical and the popular and the canonical haibam ga popular haiba gi marakta notion hai ga di idea hai ni ko moi ju kari de kenai ko moi gi origins ga de la kuno aduga karamba wi gi literature haiba tare su go pina popular chingi karamba na wi canonical the canonical umbrella ko karam chingi hai do ngasi ni na dori bne ko so ngasi gi si BEGC 106 popular literature block number 1 popular literature and introduction gi section mo gitori ni section na or unit number 2 the notion of the canonical and the canonical the popular gi ideas in ngasi ni na gitori ni ko in depth one maduni ko so koi objectives and introduction the whole ko ham objectives are in this unit we shall be discussing notion of canon and canonical literature habdi popular canon de yauba or canonical literature have no have the opinion in Argani. We shall juxtapose it with idea of popular and popular literature. On canonical amasung canon ga popular amasung popular literature ga ani is a compare to have juxtaposition Argani to Tamaga Mabani is a comparative study matoba have to. As we move on further, we shall also understand terms such as the classical, elite, and high and low culture. Oh, na akoina ngasi gi lecture ju ko akoina ngasi study to dori se classic have na karino classical have na karino elite ko dagi high and low high brow low brow kana gam la kani ko terminology have tare terms in je kari the refer to rino kari ni haining no have to akoina kupna nei na dori bne ko aduga finally we shall present comparative discussion on canonical and popular through examples. Aduga last akoina canonical ga popular gi marakta comparative study ama tawraga examples pir ko habidi sugumba works singina sugumba literature gi works ogera amogera masina canonical chingi aduga sugumba singina habidi example kara piraga ko sugumba sina popular ni habito akoina sin ko dori bile so in this unit we shall be discussing notion habidi idea of canon and canonical literature. We shall juxtapose it with idea of popular and popular literature. Aduga compare to organi. Aduga as we move on further, we shall also understand terms such as the classic hamsi karino, classical na karino, elite na karino, amasung high and low culture na karino. And finally, we shall present comparative discussion on canonical and popular through examples. Ko example ki examples kara piraga haibitare ne ko pina amuk analysis se complete oina ba haiba tare ko sini haraga di akoina lecture piba kan ko noida canonical example na sini popular example na sini haraga understand to line na ko admai tor bin how is it go introduction until mid 19th century popular associated with peasant, lowbrow, and common. Chaplin films, spy thrillers, and popular romances have come to enjoy status of classics. Shakespeare seen as epitome of high culture, yet as late as 19th century, his works were a part of popular theatre. Horapada akoina khangom tu is karino habakanda mid 19th century forwardadi. Habati 1850s harigana ko adubodi popular haraga akoina karine na loke habakanda peasant habadi micham kogi yamna low class ko haragene ko matam gi wai du sinarage low brow amasum common commoners singe habatare kogi elite amasum aristocrats hagera noble hagera ko high class missing na enjoy to do maduna taba khara peasants kumbana common oibana ko moina enjoy to ba wari oiro film oiro ko matam du de yamna kogi novels kumba kai gumba ko drama oiro adugumdugo akoina popular and norme aduna popular have say hojik matam dadi popular yamna positive oiba term amoina sinare ko habadi maming chatpa mi na masa khangba ko adugumba hainare ai hojing ta social media gi matam dina and haigadra aduna the more popular you are the more renowned you are haibia ko no popularity se hojitimi yamna wangna bana hen value le na longni ko but matam dugi mid 19th century haibdi 1850s gi chang du da ko popular hairagadi peasant kumbaga mai le na ba low brow amasum common oi ba ina longnaram haibdi moije khara anemba thak ta thama me haina lobu tare ko aduna Charlie Chaplin gi films kumba magi kehta silent movies kumba odagi talkies kumba haiba tare matab to early 20th century ga to ko odagi spy thrillers kumba odagi popular romances have come to enjoy status of classics ona matam du da popular entertainment in the longer ram sing do hosing matam da di modern times di haiba tare moigi value haiba tare ko moigi quality se hosing matam da di classical quality ma chele na miyam na accept tong na haibadi matam na porak pa ahung bana haiba tare ko perspective haiba tare matam du da Chaplin films kumba spy thrillers amasung popular romances sa kogi low brow common entertainment in the kanaram do hojing matam da di classical or classic habit of adugi title do phangna me even Shakespeare ko hojing matam da di Shakespeare gi drama Shakespeare gi production Shakespeare gi adaptation harake Shakespeare je kogi English literature study do bakanda natraga analyze do bakanda Shakespeare haragadi epitome of high culture in lore zumata epitome haragadi perfect example have tare ko adubu 19th century bogdi magi work sings popular theater ga mari lenge in longdara haibadi what is considered to be classic in one period can be considered popular in one period ko aduna matamna porakpa gi taste hongakpa haigadra audidi perspective hongakpa audidi analytical analysis kuma to ko hongakpa na maram oiraga matam amada popular gi magun haram bado or popular gi magun cheli na khanaram bado matam atopam dana mu classic gi magun cheli na lobi ya ko adu yi wan duna matam amda khogi Charlie Chaplin naga number film ko yamna hujum matam de yamna popular weram ba haiba tare ko yamna nokning ba yamna entertaining we ba the spy thrillers kumba popular romances kumba sa hujum matam da di amu wina classic ne lore maduni ko aduna matam na change haiba tare ko khogi evolution haiba tare ne ko adu yi moment chadu in India cultural traffic became apparent when popular fiction of West such as James Bond and Agatha Christie were able to find foothold in academic curricula and films like Sholay earned space for itself in category of classic cinema. Aduna cultural traffic say akoide yamna ilai laina ipung pung karam kanda pin pura ke haba kanda popular fiction West ko akoigi Western countries hagadra or Western civilization bu hierarchy ko adugi akoigi James Bond gumba Agatha Christie gumba moigi lamda di popular obisa akoi swaida mu akoigi university da amasung colleges singda or academic curriculum habidi curriculum da ko moije yawbang me habidi moije study to ko hore ko aduga film gumba Sholay gumba ko amna madam di popular oba 1970s 80s movies sing ko ona classic cinema gi mafam ama kanjaba ngam adagi akoina cultural traffic lai have so khang ngam he wan ko aduga in recent years popular acquired legitimacy of its own and managed to stand outside all-embracing umbrella of high culture. Oh, na popular se high culture ki makhada high culture na cover over high culture na kupshan ba gi manung da yoram ba do hojik matam da di popular hairagadi masagi own separate unique category or genre bu hairagane ko wing saragana genre ama oina study to ba hore respect to hore amasung appreciate to hore so matam amada popular je low brow peasant culture ko adugumba de peasants na pamba de popular romances ko aduga commoner singini na khanaram ba literature boiro movies boiro ko de any form of entertainment boiro khanaram ba sa hujim matam di popular haraga masagi separate identity habatare separate culture separate identity separate image sama habatare ko masagi leisaba ngame aduna hujik matam da di popular literature boiro popular movies boiro koi academic curriculum da or academic curricula da habatare odai di hogi universities da higher education da as well as hogi research to season da habatare ko maduni da aduna so matam duna porak pa hongna maram moraga matam amada lowly oi ko yamna anemba thakini kanaram da jina mo awang ba thak da nei da ba hobe ko maduni ma hinis defining the canon Leslie Fielder gives example of Japanese art floating word picture called ukiyo. Ukiyo printed with wooden blocks in color and portray well-known figures, prostitutes and actors. Matamgi ko mo wood block na namaga wiki paint kumbada lupit na ko aduga wiki paper na namaga to wiki style of art hagadra art form hagadra do ukiyo ko. Fielder says popular is too ambiguous a word to trust. For two of its commonest meanings are middlebrow and folk. But ukiyo is lowbrow and urban. It is a mass-produced art of the city. Now, popular ki definition jago Leslie Fielder hoy gumba critic na haiba kanda yamna ambiguous oimale. Haibadi amazu obiaba amasu obiaba adu mong dalaw ko. Now, khwaidigi popular je matam duda Leslie hoina kamaina define to harga na middlebrow amasung folk hai popular jago middlebrow hargadi highbrow ga lowbrow gi maratu ko ni middlebrow hai bata ko. Adubu ukiyo je yamna popular oin lobri je madi lowbrow amasung urban oibo magun na chele urban society matam Tokyo gum kai gum ko auna city gum da publish to ba city gum da produce to ba art makalamani aduna ukiyo je define to je popular hai gadra ko adubu popular ne hairaga na mu karigi madi amu lowbrow chingiba karigi madi amu urban chingiba hai question lai aduna mas sumaina kuigi kari hai tar ambiguity hagadra or ambiguous quality ma chen ba hore bina popular is defined to kan ko masi jo bi na magi popular hariba terms gi umbrella makada kari kari chanabi ai ko kari kari thambi ai kari kari option ba ya ge have sa yamna fluid oi ba gi magun nam chele ba cgi ko aduga my qualities gra expand to re have tare ko maduni canon has connotation of tradition category and league which is exclusive adabu canon hierarchy canon ko canon dadi apoi literary canon hagera religious canon hagera with text kuma kai gumada yam exclusive oiba panya ya da ba tare exclusive oiba hierarchy ko masini na apoi yamna static oiba magun na cheli canon dadi ko sidagi hongdo pa ya da ba sidagi kenna ba ya da ba to canon ko oiba canon was standard of judgment or texts containing views such as that of the bible on the bible gumba religious text gumada yawa judgment gumba text gumba du ne ko aduna akhoi bible gumba yauragadi religious canon haiba tare ko aduna moise akhina atopa mong the interpret to bo ero atopa mong the define to bo yadi na canonical oragadi some canonical texts became apocryphal outside realm of what is considered representative. For example ko gospel of Mary Magdalene gospel is ko sigize represent to canon gi oraga canonical text ntu ba but maze akhoi regular canon dagi tonga na ta ba ka habo maduni controversial texts not recognized by various churches but believed to be words of one of Jesus' companions. Now, masigi gospel of Mary Magdalene je a church ayambana various churches na ko except of them but gospel of Mary Magdalene ju Jesus ki companion singi magi recording hai tare ko ki man record to ho Jesus na singa du nen lowe aduna canon gi mar ju apocryphal obi yawi ko aduna maduna kari no haba kanda hogi masigi text ko example a b c d haba jane ko text mari je hoi canonical oi har gadi moi mari du ga wakhalon manata ba ha ga track ko the views manata ba ha ga track text e amam le kala je ko aduna mo apocryphal ha ga ni ko adugumba example har ga na bible har ga na hogi bible da gospel mayamom yaw ne james ko matthew ko pen gar kan da the mayam le ko moina canonical ne lor ni aduga example am with the gospel of Mary Magdalene which is now apocryphal oi hagani ko aduna maze Jesus ki companion namagi gospel ni adubu churches mayam amana di accept of so adu ju canon haga mu canon gi mar ga ju manung ga ju have tar ko issues kar le maduni ko ngi cycle aksi What is a literary canon? A literary canon hierarchy hojiki na koina religious kumda kai kumda ahan da introductory on yengo waniko literary canon hierarchy na kamaina define to kuni hierarchy in literature canon collection of works considered representative of period or genre aduna literature the karamba text or kari text se canon ni haigani have kanda collection of works kara have tare ko period haibagi or matam amagi habatare or genre amagi representative ne loka haibadi writings of Shakespeare or Chaucer part of Western canon. No, Western canon, Western literature dadi Shakespeare ni iramba Geoffrey Chaucer ko William Shakespeare and Geoffrey Chaucer ni iramba se moise canonical oyen logani ba because Chaucer hoi matamgi Shakespeare hoi matamgi writers singi marakta moina yamna khwaidagi obvious representative haibutare ko adu myam do mabani no oibani no mabani je Western canon gi member ne haidune ko or moigi works sing do examples ne haidune ko Western canon ko aduga and Kalidasa and Surdas constituent of Indian canon adu Indian canon da haragana moigi writers Kalidasa gumba Surdas gumba ko moijina mu Indian canon gi haidu lodune a literary canon stands test of time ona matam na ohongba pora guju ko literary canon na mo haragadi magi magunja handaroidabani habi mo gentare habadi Shakespeare has an example. Shakespeare was 1700s, early 1700s, late 1600s. Adubu still now in 2025 in the 21st century. Akun using magi texting study theory, even Chaucer study theory. Auna literary canon o garagadi it should stand the test of time. Matam na por paahong bana magi magun handa haloy tabani habi. In Indian literature, Sanskrit text always part of its literary canon. Auna Indian literature na mo Sanskrit ki texting ja. Literary canon ki part of the always part of the literary canon Sanskrit iramba texting power text Sanskrit text me like mojinamu Indian canon ki representative ni Indian canon ki example in lobiare Katha and folk traditions were never a part of canon adu katha amasung folk tradition gumba ja we folk tales gumba kai gumba ko we folk song gumba kai gumba di akui canon ki part amani na lobde lorum dem there has been a rethinking and several texts have shifted adubu akoi hujik matam da analysis toro research toro podagi di wakhalon je hong pamala aduga text me am mapum hongi have tare ko text agugi works me am magi mapum hong ngam entire idea of fixed literary canon has been questioned alna fixed literary canon have say kana decide to we ko kari gi fix orino kari gi fluid orino kari gi once considered over kari gi lotopia orino they once yaude natraga happy aro in khalagadi kari yamu maji hapsun biaro you know happy question yama lakpa horeba ko matuli Shakespeare adapted to films by filmmakers of many countries avana Shakespeare ki works in Japan every language almost every language have tare many languages ko hire gene ko mayam da ikwe kahitare adapt tore film da ko English to English so is ko already Hindi da tore Arabic da tore ko already Russian da tore makan mo tore ko in India Vishal Bhatt was adapted Shakespeare's Othello, Hamlet, and Macbeth into films such as Omkara, Hyder, and Makbul. Aduna Vishal Bhatt was a iconic film director Indian India gi mana Shakespeare gi masigi Othello, Hamlet, amasung Macbeth. Hari base mana Omkara, Hyder, amasung Makbul aina mana adapt over. They are all very successful ratings came do one but film for centuries populated by white men literary canon white men habadi Western civilization na hagadra ngoba missing European singako when dum dominate or lucky some works became less pertinent in canon and replaced by more modern counterparts aduga works kharadi mogi value pertinent or by importance habitare ko moje canon gi matangda less important or piawi aduga moigi mohut sindokraga anoba modern oiba moidigi hena no world karana mu literary canon da mu accept of yawe on takdi oje hongdo hongjin yare ko madigo works of Shakespeare and Chaucer still considered significant adubu Shakespeare hoi Chaucer hoi ni iramba works in the adum hujik hobuda hundreds 800 700 years later ko adum mo iseno value lay magun lay hena dum lawi. But people of color have become prominent parts of canon as past emphasis on Eurocentrism has waned and modern black writers such as Langston Hughes and Alice Walker are a vital part of modern canon. Adubu yam afaba mana haiba tare ko afaba change amana karino haiba kanda black people ko or they Asian people example in haiba ko black people higher than moise hanadi mamang ngai haiba tare ko hundreds of years ago higher or even 50, 60, 70 years ago, Eurocentric way, white people na dominate the way. Even white people marataju white man haitare ko akogi English writers ko American writers sing da haragan ko female writers sing ju moigi role moigi place ama literary canon da yaw si yang wan yaw angi ko matam du da or even negligible at all haiba tare adubu change lakpana maram oiraga Eurocentrism da hana focus toramba Eurocentric oiramba canon je Eurocentric oigedabani haibagi aranba wakhalon haiba tare aranba concept se honge handare haiba tare ko aduga hujing matam dadi black authors black writers ko mami ngona palawda pigi Langston Hughes ko hairo Alice Walker Toni Morrison ko mayam ma lere ko moise modern canon da moigi role ama or moigi space moigi place ama chaung lere ha se koina accept to biare ko masini ko hong paisa auna canon jo hong bi abra yai matam amada Eurocentric oramba white man singna dominate torambado literature je ko hujik matam dadi pigi black people Asian people from different areas of the globe have tare ko moina mu literary canon je sengat pahore or muju part of literary canon Europe pahore ko aduni contemporary writers such as Rabindranath Tagore, Pablo Neruda, Raja Rao, James Baldwin, Chinua Achebe, Emmy Dan and Sermon Alexie, representatives of subgenres of Native American, Asian American, Australian, Caribbean, African, Indian and African American styles of writing. Oh, na han just Eurocentric or mado. Jikti Eurocentric way have done Eurocentric tang where the layo have the yara ko. Using matam the Native American boyro, Asian American, Australian, Caribbean, African, Indian, amasung African American gumbasina loy namang muju modern canon da moigi part ama or moigi space ama moigi jaga ama using layo ko. Some writers work not as appreciated in their time, but their writings becomes part of canon many years after that. Oh no, si jo chung bomni ko ai na hujik ta pan giba. Female authors have tare ko. Matam du da kugi England gi boyro ko. Some example in England the focus sorry ko. English female writers sing se matam du da muina lyric ama publish to ge hire the ju moi the opportunity to be there, rights to be there ko. Adu da muina even lyric to owning ga ju pseudonym ang gi makhada. Haibadi male name mago Charles Bronte we ke win to people ko they George Eliot we natra Marian Evans ko moina like ning ba moigi magun yam nei ga su moigi writing so yam quality der ga su ko moigi kari hai tan moise canonical literature da hari ko moigi mama bibi ki de adubu moigi matam da moigi space ama moigi jaga ama ko moigi ta their own private space ko bibi dragasu many years after they have died ko moigi role moigi moise part of the literary canon and acceptable hore maduni ko maise moise hinging ide appreciate to bidragasu sigraba matunda moigi quality ko moigi role canonical literature ko moigi role je appreciate to hore ani we want ko true of female writers like or such as Jane Austen, Charlotte Bronte and Emily Dickinson. Emily Dickinson nong American wala ko. Jane Austen ka Charlotte Bronte in English wala. Ona moi singze irak pada male writers matan dugi habi tare ko. Moi ki contemporary male writers tagi moi ni hena magun leibo habi ai or at least comparable with habi ai ko. Moi ki su ta de moi magun to ko. Adubu moi hinging ai tadi moi ki works sing published to bite tawragazu under a different name ko aduna moi na matan du da moi na enjoy to zakadawa popularity wealth the recognition higher again ko myam phangi da do moi sigar matung now moi gi iramba singdo moi gi poems ko ro novels ko ro appreciate toraga moi je English literary canon da achoba mafam ama moi da sinarabane mafum kallabane maduli Nobel, Pulitzer and Booker prizes have played a significant role in the making of the contemporary canon. Oh no, Nobel Prize ko in literature, Pulitzer Prize amasung Booker Prize masi ahum juna kwaidagi most well known harage ko obviously Nobel Prize na kwaidagi awang ba thak thame ko myam ne accept tore ko Booker Prize na best novel written in English in the past year ko the Pulitzer Prize yung matan kan yam yam re Ernest Hemingway na ga phang ko ona Nobel Prize winner writers kumba the Booker Prize ki winner text kumba je hojing matam gi contemporary hojing matam gi canon da muise Booker Prize Pulitzer na traga Nobel Prize phangagadi modern canon da yaure na object accept to je hungare significant role ma play to have tare ko na Nobel Prize ka ngam karagadi or Nobel Prize ka the phangagadi harage ko uziki writer du ki works in je contemporary canon da study tore academia da analysis kuma tore. It has expanded definition of canon, turn it elastic and blurred distinctions between classic and popular. Oh na, hujing matam dadi definition do canon have si kari no have ki definition se expand tore elastic ore har the flexible ore ko masi juai ha di yamna rigid oramba structure amu da haraga na ko yamna narrow oramba yamna rigid oramba do hujing matam dadi matmaina oitre aduga distinction demarcation ama leramba do blur oinre have di si ju bi na habi mo ko madulu. Some contemporary writers who have found considerable space in academic discussions are Marquez, Gabriel Garcia Marquez, Rushdie, Salman Rushdie, Pamuk, Orhan Pamuk, Amitav Ghosh, Jhumpa Lahiri, etc. Oh no, hujing matam gi writers kara legi da yaw record in the academic discussion the analyze yamna kupna tawraba writers kara hairagadi Gabriel Garcia Marquez ko magi magic realism gumba gumba da or Salman Rushdie gi ju Midnight Children, one of the best Booker or Booker's Prize, the best novel written in the past 100 years. Or Han Pamuk Sui, I'm not for my writing assembly. The Amitav Ghosh, Indian Ireland, Jhumpa Lahiri, lady, Moizu, Academia, intellectual circles, works in discussed about Contemporary takes time to enter canon and it becomes canonical as it has to stand test of time over decades, if not centuries. So now, contemporary work, amana canon gi part amo oi ba se matam sange ekta time jo factor amo oi bani work am je canonical oi ba oi ba ha se magi quality dong na junate does it stand the test of time have gi question am lai ha badi Shakespeare wi ying je torture wi ying je bo 1600s 1500s torture wi nong 1300s ko the iramba singdo hujiko analyze story hujiko study story now hundreds and hundreds of years later hujik se moy adum appreciate story discuss story adu story me adu ko adumaina contemporary writers singna canon gi part ama oiba have say matam chang at least decades decades means tens of years have ta ko adu sangmani na moje contemporary na canon gi part oiba have say kar one atwi have ta another writers singna literary canon gi part amo oi ba have say impossible din na tabako but matam dugi factor do matam do ma yam na akogi another writers sing na oi ba kar wagani mugi work sing je ba beli so Rushdie hoy Marquez hoy di pam hoy di 1990s 80s tagi ba hor ba ko na mugi je 40 years old 50 years old or na canonical or ko ne ko amita go su ju kuire la iri ju kuire ko na older writers sing na canon gi oi ba gi hana chances wangi compared to the contemporary or modern writers have evolved. I think it's like the last part. The classic and the classical. Classic and classical constitutes canon. Canon the classic and classicalism. Classic exhibits timeless quality. On the timeless quality, classic even Roman and Greek works called tragedies. Classical even thousands of years later. Classical literature refers to that rubric of literature, works which were exquisite in their times and holds merit and relevance in contemporary times. So now, classical literature is kamina refer to kamina define to haraga mogi matam dazu exquisite quality ma chenba as well as hujusik matam dazu mogi importance amasung relevance haraga di mogi maru oibse ko handa taba ha tare ko madu bo pina classical literature and singadi. Classic is something which is timeless and content of a classic work never becomes obsolete. Obsolete or bahar kadi outdated or bahar habidi matamamada fazaramba matamamda value learn like obsolete or kawika adubu classic amo oigi har kadi timeless ogidobuni matamna porakpa ahongbana magi magun hanta haloidabani habitare ko aduga classic work amadi yor my content kari yawge habita outdated sumoi oidabne habidi Shakespeare ki place in the harage ko example in era level harage Shakespeare je karigino 400 500 years later magi works in jesu akuina nainariba ꯀꯔꯤꯒꯤꯗꯃꯛꯇꯅꯣ ꯃꯥꯅ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏ ꯍꯧꯖꯤꯛꯀꯤ ꯃꯣꯗꯔꯟ ꯋꯥꯔꯜꯗ ꯔꯦꯂꯦꯚꯦꯟ ꯑꯣꯏꯔꯤꯁꯦ ꯍꯥꯏꯕ ꯀꯥꯟꯗ ꯁꯦꯛꯁꯄꯤꯌꯔꯒꯤ ꯋꯥꯔꯛꯁꯤꯡꯒꯤ ꯃꯥꯒꯤ ꯃꯦꯟ ꯀꯦꯔꯦꯛꯇꯔꯁ ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯒꯦ ꯃꯥꯒꯤ ꯄ꯭ꯔꯣꯇꯦꯒꯣꯅꯤꯁ ꯍꯥꯏꯒꯗ꯭ꯔꯥ ꯃꯥꯒꯤ ꯗ꯭ꯔꯃꯥꯁꯤꯡꯗꯀꯣ ꯃꯦꯛꯕꯦꯠ ꯑꯣꯏꯔꯣ ꯍꯦꯝꯂꯦꯠ ꯑꯣꯏꯔꯣ ꯑꯣꯊꯦꯂꯣ ꯑꯣꯏꯔꯣ ꯀꯤꯡ ꯂꯤꯌꯔ ꯑꯣꯏꯔꯣ ꯀꯣ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯁꯦ ꯂꯣꯏꯅꯃꯛ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏ ꯍꯧꯖꯤꯛ ꯃꯇꯝꯗ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯅ ꯐꯥꯎꯔꯤꯕ ꯒ꯭ꯔꯤड ꯖꯦꯂꯁꯤ ꯑꯦꯝꯕꯤꯁꯟ ꯁꯤ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯁꯦ ꯂꯣꯏꯅꯃꯛ ꯍꯧꯖꯤꯛ ꯃꯇꯝꯗꯁꯨ ꯔꯦꯂꯦꯚꯦꯟ ꯑꯣꯏꯔꯤꯕ ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯗꯤ ꯃꯦꯛꯕꯦꯠꯅ ꯁ꯭ꯀꯣꯠꯂꯦꯟꯒꯤ ꯅꯤꯡꯊꯧ ꯑꯣꯏꯅꯤꯡꯕꯒꯤ ꯑꯦꯝꯕꯤꯁꯟꯗꯣ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏ ꯂꯣꯏꯅꯃꯛꯇ ꯐꯥꯎꯕ ꯉꯥꯛꯇꯅꯦꯕ ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯗꯤ ꯃꯣꯁ ꯑꯣꯐ ꯑꯁ ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯒꯦꯅꯦꯀꯣ ꯑꯗꯨꯅ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏ ꯂꯣꯏꯅꯃꯛꯁꯨ ꯑꯣꯚꯔ ꯑꯦꯝꯕꯤꯁꯤꯌꯁ ꯑꯣꯏꯕꯒꯤ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏ ꯏꯁꯥꯗ ꯍꯦꯃꯔꯁꯤꯌꯥ ꯇ꯭ꯔꯦꯖꯤꯛ ꯐ꯭ꯂꯣ ꯍꯥꯏꯕ ꯇꯥꯔꯦꯅꯦꯀꯣ ꯑꯃ ꯌꯥꯎꯕ ꯑꯗꯨꯃꯥꯏꯅ ꯃꯦꯛꯕꯦꯠꯇꯁꯨ ꯌꯥꯎꯏ ꯑꯗꯨꯅ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏ ꯔꯤꯂꯦꯇꯦꯕꯜ ꯑꯣꯏꯌꯦꯕ ꯑꯗꯨꯗꯩꯗꯤ ꯑꯣꯊꯦꯂꯣꯅ ꯗꯦꯁꯗꯦꯃꯣꯅꯥꯗ ꯖꯦꯂꯁꯤ ꯐꯥꯎꯈꯤꯕ ꯍꯦꯝꯂꯦꯠꯅ ꯃꯥꯅ ꯊꯕꯛ ꯑꯃ ꯇꯧꯒꯗꯕꯗ ꯃꯥꯅ ꯑꯦꯛꯁꯟ ꯂꯧꯕ ꯉꯝꯗꯕ ꯄ꯭ꯔꯣꯀ꯭ꯔꯦꯁꯇꯤꯅꯦꯠ ꯇꯧꯈꯤꯕ ꯀꯤꯡ ꯂꯤꯌꯔꯅ ꯂꯚꯀꯤ ꯃꯇꯥꯡꯗꯀꯣ ꯃꯥꯏ ꯃꯆꯥꯅꯨꯄꯤꯒꯤ ꯂꯚꯇ ꯃꯥꯅ ꯄꯥꯝꯈꯤꯕ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯗꯣ ꯁꯤ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯁꯦ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏ ꯑꯦꯁ ꯑ ꯍ꯭ꯌꯨꯃꯦꯟ ꯕꯤಯಿಂግ ꯍꯥꯏꯕ ꯇꯥꯔꯦꯀꯣ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯅ ꯑꯗꯨꯝ ꯑꯦꯄ꯭ꯔꯤꯁꯤꯌꯦꯠ ꯇꯧꯕ ꯉꯝꯃꯤ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯅꯁꯨ ꯑꯣ ꯃꯉꯣꯟꯗ ꯐꯥꯎꯔꯤꯕ ꯏꯃꯣꯁꯟꯁꯦ ꯑꯩꯉꯣꯟꯗꯁꯨ ꯐꯥꯎꯏꯀꯣ ꯃꯥꯅ ꯇꯧꯔꯤꯁꯦ ꯑꯗꯨꯝ ꯑꯟꯗꯔꯁꯇꯦꯟ ꯇꯧꯏꯀꯣ ꯏꯚꯟ ꯗꯣ ꯃꯥꯅ ꯇꯧꯔꯤ ꯊꯕꯛꯁꯦ ꯂꯥꯜꯂꯒꯁꯨ ꯑꯥꯏ ꯑꯟꯗꯔꯁꯇꯦꯟ ꯋꯦꯌꯔ ꯍꯤ ꯑꯣꯔ ꯁꯤ ꯏꯁ ꯀꯃꯤꯡ ꯐ꯭ꯔꯣꯝ ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯗꯣ ꯃꯗꯨꯗꯣ ꯇꯥꯏꯝꯂꯦꯁ ꯀ꯭ꯋꯥꯂꯤꯇꯤ ꯑꯣꯏꯕ ꯑꯣꯕꯁꯣꯂꯤꯠ ꯑꯣꯏꯗꯕ ꯃꯒꯨꯟ ꯑꯃ ꯆꯦꯟꯕ ꯀꯧꯋꯦꯕ ꯃꯗꯨꯅꯤꯀꯣ Matthew Arnold's touchstone method refers to understanding of real excellence and beauty in poetry. ꯑꯗꯨꯅ Matthew Arnold's touchstone method ꯁꯤꯅ ꯀꯃꯥꯏꯅ ꯇꯧꯒꯦ ꯍꯥꯏꯕ ꯀꯥꯟꯗ classical poetry ꯁꯤꯡꯗꯒꯤ lines ꯅꯠꯇ꯭ꯔꯒ stanzas ꯂꯧꯈꯠꯂꯒ ꯑꯇꯣꯞꯄ poem ꯑꯃ ꯑꯇꯣꯞꯄ verse ꯑꯃꯒ compare ꯇꯧꯕꯗꯣ ꯃꯗꯨ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯅ touchstone method ꯀꯧꯏꯀꯣ ꯃꯗꯨ T.S. Eliot links maturity to a classic. ꯑꯗꯨꯅ classic ꯑꯃꯒꯤ ꯃꯒꯨꯟ ꯆꯦꯟꯒꯦ ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯒꯗꯤ maturity ꯃꯒꯨꯟ ꯑꯃ ꯆꯦꯟꯒꯗꯕꯅꯤꯅ Eliot ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯝꯃꯦꯕ as a critic ꯑꯃ ꯑꯣꯏꯅꯀꯣ Classic can occur when a civilization, its language, literature, and mind is mature. Civilization dugi language, literature, amasung mind du mature or kandatang classic have say create to bungang na T.S. Eliot na claim tor. Discussion of classics is important because there is deep connection between canon and classic. This classic sing the study to yam important noy. Kagin haba kana canon haba classics haba gi marta yam na close oiba mari male. Any text that enriches human mind eventually stands test of time and appreciated and read by generation. Text amay to ko. Human mind jibu enrich to ngamba. Human mind jibu expand to ngamba haragene ko. To ngamba gadi generation after generation na adum appreciate to gani as well as the test of time have tare ko madu stand to ngamba ni. Madu ni mining is popular classics. Dichotomy occurs when these two terms, popular and classic, are used together. Oh no. Dichotomy haragadi opposite side ani ki comparison have dichotomy haragadi. North south east west night day dichotomic relationship. Popular ke classic ka jesi na kanda dichotomy am self contradictory ko ani se opposites oy. Self contradictory in many ways. Popular classics defies watertight compartmentalization and strict categorization into binaries of high and low. Akwina popular hypoga classic hypoga ze yana different way haina study torpanina term amada popular classics hairagati oxymoron haita oxymoron ni quality ma cheleba ona hana watertight compartmentalization haibadi category amada thamambada section thamambada high amasung low sina high ni sina low ni ko langa lerabada. Such texts are claimed by both high classicist tradition and market-oriented popular tradition. These texts rest on fulcrum of popular appeal, quality that provide it longevity and reverence. Popular appeal, mayam na pamba. Popular or popular by classic episode. Classic or gadi mayam na tum appreciate to ta ko. Mudi quality do na mamunda hujiki text amada longevity amasung reverence. Reverence ha gadi respect ko. Madugi quality na kogi text se Shakespeare ki poro Shakespeare dum hire again for example in most common example of longevity ujung matam 400 500 years later akuna pari reverence respect to ko my quality they attract a wide readership alongside a substantive market mi meam na pane Some would include texts such as Munshi Premchand's stories, India, the Haragana called Munshi Premchand, like my collection of stories, kumba, and novels called Haragana, Jen Iyer, kumba, A Tale of Two Cities, kumba, and Things Fall Apart. Sugumbaze, popular classics have a term to give had a happy evolution. Aduna, Matamamada popular classics, because yamna tonganba, yamna different way, have the Masamasagi unique categories sing and the Kanaramado. The popular classics kind of have a term to see of the popular classics in the Kari example, we have Kanta, Mayanazu respect over leadership free on the Wangba, test of time to stand to Wungamba. For example, Premsan Giwari Singh, Jen Iyer Gibu novel, Tale of Two Cities, Charles Dickens, Aduga Things Fall Apart is achieved. So, Mayan Jokuna, popular classic example in Lobia, I want to The notion of taste. Pierre Bourdieu, exponent of everyday in popular culture, says opera is culture loaded. Opera, I would say culture yawo. Having not been to the opera stands for lack of taste and deficiency in culture. On opera, daga chattaba, opera daga ang tanga sangudriba, sangudragati habitare ko. Ona taste what bani, culture what bani in the way. This is just one example to establish that several other sociological activities were categorized into high and low. Aduna society amada sigi thabak se tawdragati. 5-star hotel changdragadi example ni ko Michelin star jing matam na Michelin star restaurant changdragadi nangje culture oi kote ka habata dumaina opera gumba changbujina culture oi or high class oi opera gumba changdriba opera gumba appreciate of the low class oi kind of khandarame. This became aligned to another important term in its multiple frames of reference, aesthetics. Aesthetics are the study of beauty ko adugumba hadiko. No institution including university can be chief guardian of taste. Adubu university gumba highest level of education. What is taste? And defined to Wakanda. University defined to Wakanda. Kana defined to Wakanda. Public, the commoner have a huge role to play in making of taste and culture. Na public na never decide to do it. Kari cultural or tabak poero, event poero, or the pastime poero. Sikis can taste ya we out have said public na decide to buni authority do or guardianship say academia amasung university na oy biyaro. What is valuable is treated with seriousness and merit. On a valuable report to the seriousness amasung merit my magun bibi ko. And belief that runs largely in academic quarters is that test of public is not a marker of value. Adubu academic circle da elite tako. Like high na kanjari moy kangu singi markadi public na appreciate to value lai like have to marker na tira loy. This statement contested by postmodernists who talk about the concept of ecstasis that should govern literature and culture. Adubu masigi concepts postmodernists na yati yeng su kari ecstasis, the pleasure principle. The pleasure principle has been a point of study from Aristotle's Poetics and Shakespeare's plays to Gone with the Wind, detective fiction, and spy thrillers. Poetics tell us tragedy does not produce any chance pleasure, but pleasure proper to it. And tragedy means tragedy do not with the pleasure makhanama piye. Madugo chanaba pleasure. Form of pleasure evoked by thrillers is suspense, which makes readers read story to find out what happens next. So, thriller ki like ama crime thriller ki boro mo pa kanda sada kedum pauli suspense am pauli. Masi je pleasure makhala mane. Madu to ecstasis ko. This pleasure invokes a sense of ecstasis. In short, ecstasy or happiness. Ecstasy hai the happiness am paul je kune ecstasis hai ko. Ecstasis is emotive charge of story which also provides lasting energy. Koi kedum to paul atum like to Pablo rakanda film the yengul rakanda ko we sada kedum paul. It can be summed up as therapeutic function of art. Art ki therapeutic function namane. If murders in Ian Fleming's novels invoke thrill and excitement, so does murders in novels of classic novelists such as Eliot and Hardy. Murder Hardy ba action namase. Modern writer Ian Fleming novels are with a thrill and excitement on the dog. Adumaina classic nena longer about classic novelist and longer about George Eliot Boiro, Thomas Hardy Boiro, Moin Eva novels in the album murders were comparable or in opinion. Kids is term that occurs very often when we talk of cultured and popular. Kids have a term that in life stories. The idea of kids, the obverse of taste ke opposite. Kids is those objects or art that is considered to be in poor taste because of excessive gariness and sentimentality. Auna object kumba art makalamani object singini ko moise poor taste in low kids and have the low quality have tare peasant ki quality chin ko. they are appreciated in an ironic way. Ado moi je appreciated to be in an ironic way. Kids has come to be connected with popular, lowbrow and common. Now hujing matam da kids se kariga compared to gaya kanda popular, lowbrow amasung common compared to it. A German word, it relates to all that is tasteless. Ona tasteless obo sing to aduga German word ne kids say ko ona anything that is tasteless, anything that has kari habitare garishness, excessive oina ko garishness obo natraga sentimental excessive oina yabu ja adu kids hai adu product to habitare ko. For a long time, literature produced by marginalized people in the West, particularly blacks and natives, considered kids. Oh, no. Yang kuina. Matan mama ko. Literature kanana produced to ba marginalized people ko West. Ako'y blacks amasung natives. Natives ay kadi ako'y pudi politically incorrect with the term ni ko ba khang na ba harage. Matamam da ako'y red Indians ka haram ba sa ako'y native Indians na hare ko. Adu mo na puto ba magi literature bo ro ko the works or artistic work or madu do kids o na kanara me. Kids and camp literature became redefined when significant stories such as one by Maxine Hong Kingston's Woman Warrior, Memoirs of a Girlhood Among Ghosts, hit American bookstall. Although kids oiba walhin sinarambado popular work jawe. This is a one-off example of literature dissolving boundaries of literary merit and people from margins telling their own stories their way. Aduna masigi text na classic oy, masigi text na popular oy, masigi text na kids oy na define term ba na people from the margins ko we get Native Americans gumba kay gumba blacks in ko oy marta lemba boundary to tugay to maduri example man e summa likes ke popular pa mina pa price. Highbrow and lowbrow. Highbrow associated with intellect and mind ko intellect ka mind ga habidi education high class education ko university education compared to with highbrow and lowy. They have taste and they look down upon anything that is popular, common and kitsch, belonging to lowbrow culture and lowbrow. So na moi superiority complex have to tare ko style na ko. Moi na decide to kari work na classic way kari work na value like kind decide to highbrow people na ko. Presently, critics are bursting this divisive myth of intellectual stimulation and pop fetishism. Adu bu hujing matam dadi critics na highbrow and lowbrow we mark the demarcation high differences I to guide divine. Perry Maisel proved this distinction of highbrow and lowbrow to be thoughtless and severely damaging to culture. Now, so minus in a highbrow ni ko text in highbrow ni text B na lowbrow ni kind of defined to by a definite margin of culture the yam damaging or action naman na Perry Maisel ni low. Middlebrow is neither highbrow nor lowbrow. Middlebrow much later. Middlebrow was to become aligned with middle class. On the middle class people, I believe high class people, low class people, able to mind middle class people get that the middlebrow that you got defined program. This dichotomous debate is called private enterprise and public enterprise. Private implies domain of select few, and public enterprise is of teeming commoners. On the private enterprise na kuigi highbrow nen low reserve ko, kaya muy kara dangi habitare ko, muy chama galit, muy mga taragi ko. Utuga public enterprise na mayam dugi commoners mayam 90 dugi na low reserve. In many ways, it is minority and majority discourse. Ana atopa perspective amadagi yeng bukanda na highbrow lowbrow discussion je minority ga majority discussion ni markane ba. Haibadi any civilization da throughout history ko yeng bukanda like hayam na hiba shayam na paiba high class oiba section of society haibitare ni cham le bukanda mga din tara period su dine. The remaining would be middle class oiba natrakan low class oiba. Haibadi ayam bana struggling masses had to do. Adu concept yang gadi highbrow sections in the PE aduga lowbrow ko sugi sections in the jawing na dragon majority we have a set acceptable way. Relation between myths and popular literature. There is connect between myths and popular literature connection like myths wipe out gulf fire the gap having that divides elite culture from pop culture. Pop culture elite culture in divides myths na tugai. Despite new look, science fiction draws upon myths for popular appeal. Now, science fiction ka have say kui driba. Yes, even though there are some examples of kui driba science fiction worry gale. Adubu akoi gi science fiction ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯒꯗꯤ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯅ relatively new ꯑꯣꯏꯅ ꯂꯧꯏꯀꯣ ꯑꯗꯨꯅ mythsꯇꯒꯤ ꯀꯩꯗꯒꯤ ꯃꯣꯏꯅ idea ꯀꯣ ꯃꯣꯏꯒꯤ inspiration ꯃꯌꯥꯝ ꯑꯃ ꯂꯧꯊꯣꯛꯑꯦꯕ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯗ popular ꯑꯣꯏꯅꯕ ꯍꯥꯏ example ꯑꯣꯏꯅ ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯕꯗ in Star Wars ꯀꯣ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ movie series ꯇꯣ scientific apparatus gives us excuse to return to certain tales of mystery and adventure that thrill us. Popular literature contains communal dreams, shared myths, and archetypes. ꯀꯣ ꯑꯗꯨ ꯃꯌꯥꯝ ꯂꯥꯛꯀꯅꯦꯕ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ Star Wars ꯒꯨꯝꯕꯗ scientific apparatus ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯗꯤ instrument ꯀꯣ ꯑꯅꯧꯕ excuse ꯄꯤꯕꯀꯣ mystery-gumba, adventure-gumba je akhoi experience of gaya gadi koi science fiction du jai na ko madune ba hining is characters of popular works immediately enter public domain like Pickwick Papers ya the Charles Dickens ki Don Quixote Miguel de Cervantes ki novel ya uduni Sherlock Holmes ko Arthur Conan Doyle na iramba Arthur Conan Doyle ni iramba koi detectives the etc. Certain authors are remembered like Chaucer and Jane Austen, but their characters do not leave an imprint on memory of readers in manner in which characters from works such as Alice in Wonderland, Sherlock Holmes, and Tarzan became household names. Adubu, we na kangadona. Chaucer gumba Jane Austen iramba novels in the yes, even though moje yamna magun leba, yamna value leba works in lower gazu, moji characters in the yamna hujik matam the relevant or bigi chang to handareva. As well as moje popular show ideba. Adubu, atopa characters in atopa works in the kiko. We Alice in Wonderland hero, Sherlock Holmes hero, Tarzan hero, see the me amada hang bakanda yamna recognizable oiba. Characters me am moidu ne aduna author do maming chalaga ju magi characters sing maming chatabe to author maming chataga ju magi characters maming chatabe madun dinings. Popular literature is not bound by writer or produce or even more audio visual or any other art form in which it is produced ona popular literature is called audio obi visual obi or any other art form obi aduna athing batam dona te. Popular literature never really belongs to one medium. It never is just words on a page, says Fielder and High. Popular literature is just medium of the Udoguna. Habidi Maze, like when the Ponga, like medium to talk, or the give Hongbia de Henbia de ability of He puts it succinctly that all literature is finally, essentially, images in the head. When I power kind of image, so we Wakan the habitat of mind, once it images passes through words into our heads, such primordial images of archetypes or myths can pass out easily again in any other medium. Ado akoi na like to parani like to pava ka anda akoi ki mind da koi ko mun da ba ko imagination da concept ama create or ne ba koi protagonist go or villain du go or setting du go or tra adu namu adu gi idea ro ko ga koi na atopa medium on dong on to pi. They can be portrayed on the stage or ba koi na mu stage da koi na drama idea on to pi. They can be painted they can be sculpted in stone. They can be turned into stained glass windows. Colorful stained glass window. I have a church. They can be carved in stone. The medium does not matter. Cinema handling is idea. Idea sagalagadi like to parambadagi idea sagalagadi medium any other medium that we na otokudo ilailani yaya. Maduniko Switzerland has popular literature opening up the canon. German intellectuals expressed concerns over explosion of mass culture in the culture industry. That consideration was given to everything popular. On German intellectuals in the critics in the habitat, moina concern kara, mugi pakat pahagadra, ina jingna bahagadra kar ulle. 1970s saw European and American universities incorporating courses in popular literature. In the 1970s, atai dagiti European amasung American universities da popular culture study toba, popular culture analyze toba horakra. Of significance is inclusion of Sobade's novel as representative of Asian Indian literature. Na Sobade ni even novel go mogi curriculum da hapchalak popular literature sing ido hapchale 1980s saw several universities in India such as Mumbai, Punjab and Jadavpur redefined canonical study. On the 1980s na mo India na mo Mumbai University gumba ko Punjab amasung Jadavpur University da canonical studies in se redefine tore ko hana karine na lorba hojina karine na lobi ai to ko to idea am sagale. In 1990s, study of popular literature amalgamated with canonical. Amalgamated popular literature canonical. Opening of canon of literature result of advent of postmodernism on one hand and birth of era of globalization on other. D.S. Lawrence and William Faulkner wrote on taboo subjects. Their books were banned, yet they were popular then and are considered classics today. D.S. Lawrence ang iramba Sons and Lovers ko or the Lady Chatterley's lover kind of the William Faulkner giram ko text me novels me amje matam the taboo oi ko taboo subject kumba habitare moi ki love kumba the khara matam du da widely accepted oitaba haiba tare ko mugi idea me am share to we kind of I think matam gi ko but matam du jun popular oi aduga hujingna moina DS Lawrence ni iramba Faulkner ni iramba work sing ja classics ne na law the idea of the canon, the Pope, and the academia. So, by studying canonical works of past, we gain new appreciation for them from modern perspective. Gulliver's Travels for a long time plays on children's literature. And the Gulliver's Travel magi tigi novels matam yam kuina children's literature normeba. Adubu today deeper insight has uncovered it as a piece of exemplary satire on humankind. And ujing matam dadi among analysis of kanda angangi lare uram satire or humankind that satire iba high class over inclusion of popular has dismantled hierarchy the awang and hierarchy. Classic and popular taught alongside and read together. On the classical popular is pull up this is impact of globalization and post-colonial understanding of literature. Now, masi globalization ki impact amani aduga post-colonial understanding of literature ko. Haibadi colonial matam da le mi wakalon duga hujikna post-colonial matam ko. Haibadi colonization lower ko. Madugi idea do na porakba hong amani no bi. Academia and academics rely on canon to teach students about literature, so it includes works that are representative of society. Ona society jibu fadana utopangam ko. Ona academics natraga academia na canon da yana depend to ko. Satra sing the literature takkan. Arguments about which works are worthy of further examination and study are to continue as cultural norms shift and evolve. Adubu hojik matamda discussion haibata ko. Karamba texting na karamba worksing na further examination and the kubna yingjan bada and the kubna study to bada matik chai have say akwe dum debate to we because cultural norms in the shift and evolve hong munina ko hongi or the change like ko popular literature and mass media cinema with birth of representation of literature on celluloid film unique relationship between literature and cinema established on the literature and cinema unique relationship German critics wrote on 1930s become booming Hollywood films Euphoria had the happy period these critics concerned with fact that common man was mixing up real life with real life critics in the real life ka asing life ka real life REEL in the film ki life to go ani je chamana Brian khale moina du patabam bhoy cinema has positioned itself as integral to development of cult of the pop in modern society ona cinema jana khoi pop se sigi development da chobo role no questions like what happens to literature in cinema and can pedagogy remain unaffected by its representation in cinema gains greater relevance ona hojing matam da cinema da literature kari kori have a madugi research sama to yare in last 2 decades paradigm shift over home whereby text has been placed against various production apparatus have the cinema television when adapt to if literature has to fulfill its roles and purposes analysis of popular narrative can provide crucial link between literature and study of other modes of representation on the literature ga atopa modes of representation ko film boiro television boiro cinema boiro ko madu myam to madu da pugi analysis to sang Indian English popular fiction and the literary canon Indian English popular fiction redefining canon and canon is redefined to record in its bid to respond to cultural effects of consumerism shifting gender roles on it is playing pivotal role I believe important role play in canon formation and the canon has a carino in the form of Indian English popular fiction it is participating in rewriting hegemony they represent consumerist middle class that represents promise of liberalizing Indian nation. Indian nation liberalize of adubu represent tawe ko masigi canonical works in jida. In commercial fiction of mass market writers like Chetan Bhagat, popular to Ravinder Singh and Durjoy Datta, these readers, consumers find psychological gratification and celebratory representation. Auna Chetan Bhagat kumba, Ravinder Singh kumba, amasung Durjoy Datta kumba irakpa laik singda, consumer sing amasung reader singda, moida psychological gratification, painful power power ko, aduga moise represent tawre happy mo. Looking at popular texts of the 21st century, economic factors and number of copies sold are indispensable parameters. On the like yam yole, I will say yamna. Using matamadi consumerism gi role ama chawno laknina. Like to yamna magun level yamna value level I or ju like kya yole ko le have to like masing yamna yon tragedy like to popular or heroin most of these novels by young social media savvy authors deal with contemporary lived reality of new Indian youth. Ana moina masana thing nazarakpa moigi challenges haigadra moigi experiences mem do matang di ibon. To add relationship of an author and his audience, social media increasingly becomes an essential device. On the social media se moigi essential ba yamna ke haitare dakar we ba ko ke haitare author amaga magi audience gi marakta relationship develop over kanda hujing matam de social media si yamna maru ba device am ore siniko canonical definition go khong position maram amane sumdas. Commercial author steps out of his her role of individual capable of simply writing. With Chetan Bhagat, profile of author more than producing popular literature, it included successfully marketing oneself and the text. The text don't have isazo. I get popularity ko I social media I get followers can popular or relevant or this breed of young writers do not really concern themselves with canons and canonization. No, more the I get text canon or canonization they are focused on the how many copies sold, not popularity, and focus stories. While there are sections of staunch literary critics who have frowned upon idea of popular commercial fiction emerging as a major form, it is essential to understand that in simplistic growth of this kind of fiction as a form of literature, there is larger hope of young of today to understand nuances of Wordsworth's daffodils, orchids, ode to a Grecian urn. Critics currently support of the sugumba myamje popular commercial fiction singina major form moina tholakpa kanda moina sauningba yaningda pawi adubo ko ningjangadom di sugumba pargadi kona moina Wordsworth ki daffodils sugumba pabu kanda John Keats ki ode to a Grecian urn ba pabu kanda hena understand to honba ngambi yai na kuna aphabrom da khandu pi ai ba madu sum up torsi ko let us sum up. Every text and work of art has existence and moves within social context. Text natraga work of art dimag se ba magi existence like amasung maje social context ta exist to do ne ko haibadi akoina literature amasung artworks in the mirror of society kind of height of masiniko. Edmund Spencer acquired reputation as poet and storehouse of recondite allusion and allegory, but in his day the fairy queen regarded as pandering to middle-brow appetite for stories about knights, maidens, and hideous ogres and dragons. So, Edmund Spencer the poets ki poet ni kana ka yamna awang thak thamida magi matam da magi fairy queen gaze yamna kahetare middle-brow readers in the focus of equally kind of maje criticism hangi bo mai matam da ko madun. Fiedler believed that literature is no longer sacrosanct to be monasticated in a sanctuary within library and academia. On a literature library academia, he implores an accommodation of counterculture which would assimilate high mimetic mode of art and is offers low mimetic literature outside academy. Academy one academy do not approve the science fiction gumba, soap opera studies gumba, media and film studies gumba. So gumba Yohan opening the gates to the barbarian nattive. Entire the barbaric yamna velu handan native popular comic books poero, film and media studies kumbo science fiction, soap opera studies kumba, academy and Yohan Bada gates opening the gates of the barbarian jungle native. Canons will remain, albeit in newer form the canon zap. Leogani atop among Malorga. Okay, so albeit higher the although having more in newer forms on the canon I say fix over that they have lecture in hiding is so I hope you all understood the lecture today nasigi lecture je ko we canon na karino canonical na karino popular na karino habigi koi analysis to record nasigi lecture sida mathingi class da koi continue torazi aduga mathangi na unit number 3 pakalagani ko so no lo numa gyan taren lorge adu gyan ta ba chamam na yaur ga mathangi class da moina you can raise your concerns ko I hope you have a great evening ahead